We need to have a conversation. Oh, come here real quick. We need to have a conversation about the absolute state of the Prydwen tier list for Etheria Restart, at least when it comes to, I don't know, the PvP rankings. If you're familiar with any sort of Gacha game, RTA, PvP tier list ranking, there's usually a handful of characters that are the top, the cream of the crop when it comes to the way that the game can be played. They dominate the meta and everything is shaped around them, and things sort of fall in line underneath them. But if you take a look at the state of the Prydwen tier list when it comes to PvP in this game, I'm not sure that half the roster should be designated as tier 0 to tier 0.5 or even tier 1 at this point. I mean, and in fact, the vast majority of characters that are in tier 2 or lower for PvP are some really underutilized SRs or some just R tier characters that aren't ever gonna have a shot to be top of the meta. There shouldn't be like 20 characters listed tier 0 and another 15 or so in tier 0.5. There should maybe like 5 total, if that. So if you look at the structure that we have set up right now, we have, well, a couple of different AI PvP and RTA PvP DPS debuffers, as well as supports and sustaining units. I don't think a lot of these characters deserve to be up here though. Now, don't get me wrong, Messiah as well as Rosa are fantastic PvP and PvE DPS characters, but having someone like, I don't know, Marvel linked up with Lilith when it comes to a debuff sort of role in RTA or AI PvP just isn't really cutting it for me, right? I understand Chiaki the Echo is pretty strong, but to put her in the same tier as someone like Doky Doi or Lily, who literally break the game in a lot of situations if you have them on your account, just kind of brings tears to my eyes. So if I wanted to just give you guys 5 characters that I think will be the absolute tier 0 when it comes to PvP and Etheria Restart, I'm going to be listing these 5. Now, the first one I want to go over is going to be Lily. This is going to be one of the best, if not possibly the best character to get access to on your account for PvP in Etheria Restart. She has incredibly high speed at 132 base speed, which is exceptional for the support kit that she offers. Her main thing is going to be with this twin trick debuff. Her S2 is a 3-turn cooldown. You're going to apply this buff to a single ally called Twin Trick, and then it's going to give your entire team a 2-turn speed plus buff to everyone. This is going to give you, yes, 30% increased speed on a speed opener. Very strong there. However, Twin Trick does do another thing as well. If you notice, Twin Trick, after every time Lily takes an action, it increases whoever has the Twin Trick's buff, their turn meter or combat readiness increase coming from Epic 7 by 30%. This is a 30% push to a designated target every time she takes an action. And in addition to that, not only is she fast, she's given a speed buff to your entire team as well. But this Twin Trick buff gets even better because, well, if you look at her S1, which is pretty good in its own right, does a little bit of damage and has a 50% chance to boost both her as well as someone else's in your party's turn meter by 20%. It's going to force the person that you gave Twin Trick to go ahead and assist her in battle as well, doing a bonus free dual attack with your Twin Trick character using their S1, which is incredibly powerful. You're basically turning anyone that you want to in your party into kind of like a Rosa Light, whose entire mechanic for existing as a character is to do damage with follow-up attacks in a lot of circumstances. Well, with 2 skills, Lily's kind of doing that for anyone that you want in the entirety of whatever team setup that you want, while also simultaneously giving speed buff to your party and pushing them by 30% every time she takes an action. But Twin Trick gets even better than that, because if you go look at her S2, if you do Twin Trick on someone who's already tricked again, you're gonna get a crit damage buff and immediately take an action afterwards as well, which is kind of crazy. Her S3 also isn't anything to slouch at. It's gonna do some damage. Then it's gonna have a 55% base chance to extend all skill cooldowns by 1 turn, and then immediately resetting all skill cooldowns for any of your allies that have Twin Trick. So Lily's going to be a character that's going to be able to give speed buff to your party, open up for your party with her incredibly high speed, give Twin Trick to somebody, push that person by 30% combat readiness, once again, right out the gate, And then you can also increase and decrease skill cooldowns for your enemies as well as your allies that have Twin Trick. And then she's also just going to be force dual attacking with your Twin Tricked ally target. And this is going to definitely make Lily a tier 0 character. She's going to be one of the best characters that you can have access to on your account for PvP, not even mentioning PvE, because she just really can't have any of her kit sort of replicated by anybody else. She just does what she does in the best way possible for your team. And some of these other characters are pretty good for similar things like Lily, but Chiaki the Echo doesn't come close. But somebody who does come close to just how good Lily can be, and someone who definitely deserves a tier 0 spot when it comes to PvP in this game, is going to be Doky Doi. Now, Doky Doi is going to be another light dark character, someone that you might be wanting to reroll for if you're going to be a reroll god, because she also is exceptionally powerful. So Doky Doi's skill 3 temporal leap 4-turn cooldown, you're going to be able to reconfigure the code and then consecutively increase the turn meter for one friendly Animus ally 8 times. But it gets even better than that, because each time it consecutively chooses an ally to boost by 12% turn meter, it's going to change its target to whoever else is now lowest in your turn order. Getting access to this to do 8 times means it's not going to push one person 12% 8 single times. It's going to push one person who's lowest by 12, 12 again, and then once that person overlaps and overtakes some other ally on the turn meter bar, it's going to change it up and then now start boosting whoever is currently the lowest. And this means that Doky Doi is going to be an incredibly powerful CR pusher and a bridge for a lot of teams when it comes to PvP, being able to push up multiple characters pretty high on the turn order meter, being able to take someone who's way in the back, push them way up front. Maybe they take 4 or 5 of your charges, but then you have 3 charges left over on this turn meter increase, and you can start pushing people who are 80%, 90%, who are about to take a turn, and make them take a turn too. You can make your entire team basically cycle super quickly with just this one skill, but that's not the only thing that she does. No, each time that she targets an ally and pushes them 12%, she's going to add 1 stack of this buff called Data Stream to them, and then she's going to finally give 5 stacks of this buff called Backup to herself. Now, what does Data Stream do? Data Stream is going to be a buff that gives whoever has it a permanent increase of 2.5% damage as well as 2.5 speed, and this stacks up to 12 stacks, meaning that if you start over the course of the battle, give someone like 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 stacks of this, you can get a whopping 25 speed and 25% damage done with 10 stacks of this Data Stream buff. You'll get 8 of this right off the gate, divvied up between a lot of your different team members. So she doesn't give like a 30% speed increase like someone like Lily does, but at the start of the battle, she's going to give significant turn meter increases to a bunch of people and then increase their damage and also give them a slight speed buff from that as well. But there's also one more thing packed into this single skill, which is going to be Backup, which is, remember, getting 5 stacks of this on Doky Doi herself, which does the following. Now, if an allied Animus in your party who is afflicted by a debuff takes action, right before they would take their action, she consumes 1 stack of Backup off of herself and cleanses them of 3 debuffs that they have, which is absolutely insane. And then also gives them another stack of Data Stream, which is the damage and speed buff, which is kind of crazy. You can get up to 6 stacks of Backup, by the way, on your Doky Doi at once. This is insane, meaning that this one skill is going to be CR pushing your entire team, giving them permanent damage buffs, giving them permanent speed buffs, and also being able to set up a preemptive cleanse across, well, the vast majority of your team. I think basically everyone but Doky Doi herself, if you're using her with a high speed set gear. She's going to be an incredibly powerful opener, giving you so many different buffs, and that's just off of her skill 3. And that's kind of insane just for one skill, and her skill 2 also is, well, kind of insane too. So her skill 2 is very similar. It's going to, instead of giving random allies changing targets, different combat readiness increases and turn meter pushes, she's instead going to reduce the cooldowns of their skills by 1 turn. She does this 5 times consecutively. Each time, though, she's going to be targeting a different ally who happens to have the highest time duration remaining for their total skill cooldown. She's also going to, once again, apply stacks of Data Stream to them as well. So she has 2 different ways to apply data stream stacks for permanent damage buffs, permanent speed buffs, reducing ally skill cooldown duration, as well as CR pushing your team on top of that. Her S1, kind of the most basic thing here. She can do a little bit of damage and then give her 1 stack of backup to herself as well. With that being said though, because she is so efficient and comes out the gate blazing, doing so many different things, Doky Doi is definitely going to be one of the tier 0 characters that you can have on your account that's going to help shape and define the meta, because just like Lily, she's one of those characters that can help boost the entirety of your team up and have them all start taking actions sequentially before the enemy team can really do anything. This is going to be good for both like aggressive teams as well as defensive teams. Both of these characters, you can buff up your team and set up a bunch of different buffs so you don't take damage. If you want to be a slower turn 2 player, this is a speedy character that you can have to help set your team up before your opponent's fast DPS characters can blow you over, or you can use them together with your own DPS characters, set yourself up, give yourself damage bonuses, combat readiness increases and pushes, and run the opponent team over before they have a chance to set up their own buffs. Please hear me out. Now, Hellkid is going to be probably a pretty exceptional character, especially when it comes to PvP, because characters who can assimilate and do multiple roles and do extremely powerful things that no one else can really replicate deserve that tier 0 spot. And Hellkid really revolves around this Shroud Barrier mechanic, and it's kind of an exceptionally powerful thing because a lot of characters in PvP revolve around some sort of debuffs, whether it's defense breaking you or attack breaking you, or lowering your speed, or putting on their own unique debuff. In Shroud Barrier, which is his gimmick, his bread and butter, is an exceptional thing. S3 here, Shroud Barrier does damage and then applies Shroud Barrier equivalent to a ratio based on his attack to all of your allies. And the effect of Shroud Barrier, well, it's not only just going to be a barrier that absorbs damage, but it also grants immunity to all debuffs while it is on your team. His S2 has an ability to not only just do damage, but also inflict an attack down on all opponents as well, which will help give you a longevity on that barrier, because if they can't break through it, you're still immune to debuffs. But on top of that though, if you still have Shroud Barrier when you use Hellkid's S2, 50% of the damage done will then be added to the Shroud Barrier up to a maximum of 150% of his old attack, allowing you to refresh this Shroud Barrier effect, keeping your team a little bit healthier and also keeping you immune to debuffs. But also his S1 is kind of insane, doing some damage, but also has a 50% base chance to inflict a 1-turn stun. However, if you have a Shroud Barrier on Hellkid still, this goes up to, actually, it increases by 100% for that 1-turn stun. So you're gonna be able to build this man for attack, do some damage, give a giant barrier to your party, and make your entire team immune to debuffs for the duration as long as that barrier is lasting, and then start stunning people, which, well, crowd control helps that barrier last even longer. You couple this with someone like Doky Doi or Lily to get free dual attacks with his S1 to keep stunning people, reducing the cooldowns on his Shroud Barrier, giving your team speed buff and damage increases, reducing the cooldowns on just casting the Shroud Barrier again, and then even if they break free and go through this Shroud Barrier, you can finally put debuffs on your team to start cleaving you down. You'll have someone like, I don't know, Doky Doi's data stream to just cleanse all the debuffs again anyway. And these three really so far encapsulate what a tier 0 character should be when it comes to PvP in a game like Etheria Restart. Someone who does something so immensely powerful so quickly that also can't be really replicated by any of the other characters in the game, that also happens to shut down a lot of the things that the other characters in the roster want to do, whether it's debuffs like with Doky Doi and Hellkid, damage with someone like Hellkid, CR pushing your entire team so you can take multiple actions throughout the battle, or just getting free S1s off of anyone in your party like with Lily. These characters are going to be able to set the tone in a lot of ways when it comes to PvP. So now we have 2 more slots. Well, who else can make the tier 0 list when it comes to RTA in this game, and none other than I think Tiamat really deserves the nod here. Now, one of the main things that she does that no one else can really replicate is part of her passive on her S1 here, the Mother of Evolution. She shares 25% of the damage taken by other allies, which is just kind of insane. If you're looking to add some bulk to your party, having someone just absorb damage into themselves is incredibly powerful. You can build that character very bulky, high HP, high defense, maybe some high effect resistance in some circumstances as well. So it's very hard to take them off the battlefield. And while they remain on the battlefield, it makes the rest of your team that much harder to take off on top of that. But in addition to this damage reduction that she brings, she also does apply a heal over time, as well as a shield herself to everyone in your party with her S2 as well. But defensive stuff isn't the only thing that Tiamat does. She also has some offensive utility. You could view the taunt on her S3 as some defensive utility, blocking off different damage dealers your opponents might have from doing their skill 2s and their skill 3s right away. But you can also use her in conjunction with someone like Lily or Doky Doi, push her up to the front, land an AoE taunt, so your opponents can't put up their own buffs to protect their team, and then you can follow up with the other characters in your party to quickly eviscerate the enemies while they're locked down for that one turn. And speaking of doing damage and locking people down, well, she's also an HP scaling character, so even though you're building her bulky so she doesn't die, she also does a ton of damage because her S1, her S3, they all scale off of health, which is incredibly powerful. And she also has her rage form that allows her to do even more damage scaling off of her health. And it does true damage on top of that. She can absolutely just waffle stomp someone into the ground that's a squishy character on the enemy team while being that bastion of bulk for your team on top of that. So for these reasons, that the flexibility, the irreplaceability, she's going to be a fantastic character to have in your PvP roster as well. And the final character that I think might help shape the meta when it comes to PvP in a specific way is going to be Lilith. Now, Lilith does do a couple of interesting things, some things that can't be replicated that well, and altogether her kit is just kind of crazy good when it comes to PvP. Now, the main thing we want to talk about is that she is an HP scaler, meaning that she's not going to be this squishy character that your opponent can just pick off right away if they outspeed you, if you have the right team composition set up, because she is scaling her damage off of your health that you have her equipped with. But the main thing that she does do that's kind of crazy is the amount of tempo that she brings to your party as a sort of crowd control character. This is because unlike some other characters who want to land debuffs that see our pushback like 10%, 20%, she's got a couple of crazy things that combo together with the first turn that she takes in the game. Her S3 tea time is going to inflict this debuff called Graceful Mischief on all enemies, and Graceful Mischief is going to explode when it is removed by any means, and it's going to do damage equivalent to 30% of Lilith's max HP with a 100% chance, base chance, to inflict a one-turn stun on them as well. And this debuff does sound very strong. Remember, it doesn't detonate right away. It detonates when it's going to be removed by any means, and so on its own, the skill doesn't seem like she's going to be that strong, but there's a very important part at the end of it where she immediately takes a turn after she uses her skill 3, which allows you to roll right into her skill 2, which is going to do 20% of her max HP scaling damage to all enemies with a 100% chance to inflict speed down on them. So now you have your bombs planted, they all have speed down, and there's one final thing. The main target of this skill 2 is going to have that debuff, that Graceful Mischief, detonated immediately, stunning them, doing the damage. And it's also going to turn meter push them back 100% to the beginning of the CR bar, which is just kind of crazy. This is the ultimate tempo character. You get her to take an action before the enemy team, you plant your bombs down, you put your speed down on them, and then you pick the most pivotal character that your opponent has on their party, say no, detonate that bomb, go to the beginning of the line. Also, by the way, you are stunned, and you're doing a bunch of damage to everyone as well. Her S1's just kind of like a little bit fine. It's not that crazy. It's just going to be more HP scaling damage. And then after you use the S1 with Lilith, there's going to be a small 20% chance that she gets to take an extra turn after S1ing. But the main thing, the main draw of taking extra turns with her S1 proc is that every time you take a turn, the cooldown on your S3 and the cooldown on your S2 are getting reduced as well. And it's for the fact that she takes so much tempo and puts it on your side in the PvP arena, whether it's AI or RTA, means that Lilith is going to be one of the best controlling units when it comes to picking a control unit in PvP. And for that reason and that reason alone, I'm going to make her the other tier 0 character. These 5, I think, will really help facilitate, definitely these 4, but I think these 5 will help facilitate many crucial game plans when you're building teams in PvP for Etheria Restart. It doesn't mean the other characters are bad. Remember, tier 0 means that these are the pillars of the game. If you're trying to play a game in multiple different ways, whether it's speed or tank down or sustain or control, you're going to be wanting to have a couple of these characters, or at least one of these characters, as your linchpin for that team, and it sets them above and beyond literally everyone else. I don't want to see the, oh my goodness, we have 75,000 characters in tier 0 and tier 0.5. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 24 characters in tier 0 to tier 0.5. Literally outside of those 5, I don't disagree entirely with this list, but those 5 that we just set up, those should be the only tier 0 characters. Knock everyone down a peg. You can fit the other ones in there, but if you're looking for the 5 best characters to look at building PvP teams for in Etheria Restart, these are the ones that you're going to want to sort of pick up and play with. I see you over there. Yes, you just went down here. You don't have any information about why I picked these 5. You're just now leaving a comment down there. That's fine. Just make sure you leave that comment. I disagree. Hit the subscribe button. Come back for more content. I'm not sure. Goodbye.